Hello, everybody. I'm Trucker Joe, and welcome to Trucker Joe's Hideout. And before we get started, if you ain't already done so, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into it. In this video, we're going to be telling real life trucker ghost stories. You know, the ones that we've heard over the years and the legends. After more than 3 decades, I've heard a bunch. I pulled five that I'm going to be doing in this video, and be sure to stay to the end because I will be telling one of my own personal stories that has actually happened to me. One of the oldest ghost legends in America is not about a haunted house, it's about a lonely highway. Versions of the vanishing hitchhiker has been collected by folklorists since the early 1900s, and a truck driver and their own versions from highways all over the country. Imagine it's 2 in the morning, it's raining, you've been driving for hours, the road is empty except one person standing on the shoulder, a young woman. She's soaked from the rain. You slow down. She asks, can you give her a ride to the next town? She climbs into the passenger seat. She's polite, quiet, and you make small talk. She tells you she's trying to get home. Nothing but the conversation is strange. Eventually, you pull into a town she mentioned. You tell her you arrived. The passenger seat is empty. No door open, no cell, no explanation. According to many versions of the story, the driver later learns that the young woman died years earlier in a car crash on the same stretch of road. In some tellings of her family, she says that she's still trying to make it home. Folklorists have documented this version of the legend in dozens of states, which is why it's considered one of the most widespread stories in North America. Uh, could ex- uh, you know, could exhaustion play tricks on the mind, or is it just another explanation? No one really knows. Tell me what you think, drivers. Have you ever heard this one? Have you, encountered anything like this? In our next story, it's called Resurrection Mary. If you ever experienced drivers around Chicago uh, about haunted roads and one name upon again and again, Resurrection Mary. For nearly a century, people have reported encounters with a young blonde woman dressed in white, Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. The story usually begins the same way. Some sees young woman walking along late at night. They offer her a ride. She quietly gets into the vehicle. She asks to be taken to the Resurrection Cemetery. As they approach the cemetery gate, she disappears. That's weird. Some versions say the driver looks away for just a second. Other claim she simply fades from the view. The legend became so popular that newspaper investigated it decades ago. Local police received reports. The story is spread from far and beyond Illinois. Truck drivers passing through Chicago have shared their own versions over the years. Some say they have seen a woman standing near the cemetery entrance in the middle of the winter wearing a thin white dress. Skeptics point that the story has changed over time, likely grew through the relating. Believers say too many people have reported similar encounters for it to be dismissed. Whenever the truth, Resurrection Mary remains one of America's most famous roadside ghost legends. I don't know about that, drivers. It sounds kind of strange to me, but I've actually heard this one. And tell me in the comments what you think about it. In our next story, we're going to do the Marfa lights. Not every mystery involves ghosts. Some involve lights no one can fully explain. Near the town of Marfa, Texas, strange glowing lights have been reported well over a century. Early settlers described the mysterious orbs floating across the desert. Ranchers saw them, travelers saw them. Eventually, truck drivers crossing West Texas reported them too. Witnesses described the glowing balls of lights change color, split apart, merge together, and sometimes appear following vehicles for before suddenly disappearing. Scientists have proposed several explanations. Some believe they're distant headlights distorted atmospheric condition. One thing may be caused by unusual temperatures, layer bending lights. Still, others suggest that it's a naturally occurring gases. Yet, despite decades of investigation, no single explanation has satisfied everyone. If you ever driven through West Texas in the middle of the night and you know how isolated it feels, when those lights appear in the distance, it's easy to understand why the mystery continues. What do you tell me, drivers? Have you ever seen these lights? I've been across West Texas a lot, and I ain't never seen them personally. Tell me in the comments if you've ever seen them, because that seems kind of strange, and I don't, be honest with you, I'd like to encounter it. In our next story, the Phantom CB. Before smartphones, truck drivers depended on one thing more than almost anything else. That was their CB radios. Boy, I sure miss them days. Stories have circulated for decades about a mysterious voice that seems to come out of nowhere. One story tells about a driver traveling through a thick, foggy mountain highway without warning. The CB crackled. A calm voice said, "Slow down, wreck ahead." The driver immediately backed off the throttle. A few moments later, his headlights illuminated the multi vehicle crash hidden by the fog. After making it safely through, he keyed the microphone up. "Who gave that warning?" Silence. He tried again. Nothing. The drivers nearby say they never heard anyone make the call. Some believe another truck simply switched channels before anyone can identify him. Others wonder if someone or something was watching the stretch of highway. Stories like this has become some part of CB lore, passed from one generation drivers to the next. Eh, well, I believe in stuff like that. It's fate. If it ain't your time, it ain't your time. Tell me what you think, driver. In our next story, this is the highway that refuses to be forgotten. For decades, a stretch of highway known as US 666, often named the Devil's Highway, developed a frightening reputation. Running through parts of New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, the road became associated with countless stories and strange encounters. Truck drivers described seeing shadowy figures standing in the roadway disappear before impact. Others claimed a black sedan would appear behind them, follow for miles without ever passing, and suddenly vanish. Some drivers even reported seeing an enormous black dog with glowing eyes running alongside their truck before disappearing into the darkness. The highway gained such a reputation that stories began feeding more stories. Eventually, a route was changed to US 491. I don't care what you say. It's still 666 because that's the original name of the highway. Supporters of the change hoped it would distance the road from supernatural reputation. Yet, even today, travelers continue sharing strange experience from the same stretch of highway. It's simply a dangerous road that has inspired generations of legends, or is there something about those lonely, deserted miles that keep the stories alive? No one has ever have a definitive answer. Well, I have personally traveled that road a whole lot, and I never did really like it, 'cause that number's always bothered me. Tell me in the comments, driver, you ever have any strange experiences over in that area? Okay, drivers, I promised you one of my own personal stories if you stayed to the end. Well, this happened over about 5, 6 years ago in New Mexico, just right outside of Gallup, New Mexico, about 16 miles outside Gallup, New Mexico. Now, here's the strange part about it is this happened about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sun high in the sky, nothing around. But I had to bust a piss, and I just couldn't make it to Gallup, so I pulled off an exit ramp. I walked around the cart truck, done my business, and as I was walking back around the truck, I was met face to face right there at the middle of the grill with an Indian lady. And she was young, kind of chunky, scared the shit out of me. First thing I done was draw my damn fist back. Well, she asked me for a ride into Gallup, and so I just had this overwhelming feeling that something wasn't right. So I climbed back up in the cab, pushed in the brakes, pulled out, and when I pulled out, I looked in my rear view mirror about halfway down the exit ramp, and she was gone. There is no place that she could have disappeared to, because if you ever been in that area, hell, it's flat, desert. There ain't even trees or anything to hide through. I have no idea where she went to or how she got there. But like I said, the strange part about it is, what I find strange, you hear all these stories at night, and this happened at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Uh, and I never did do any research on it to see if, there was an accident there and, had a young lady die there or anything. But that's one of my strange stories. If y'all had any strange stories, let me know in the comments. I mean, eh, because I've been out there over 3 decades, and I've I've experienced a few things, but I haven't experienced a whole lot. But I sure do like hearing about it, and appreciate you watching. If you stay to the end, like I said, make sure you give me a like, follow, and share. And I'm Trucker Joe, and we'll catch you on the next video.